So we have a couple bands of muscle. So the longitudinal one runs all the way to the skull. It attaches into this fascia called the thoracolumbar fascia. So that, if you look on the inside here where all these like grooves are, those are all attachment points for that fascia.
Oh, all right.
So it covers your sacrum, and that's what will help us close. So sometimes just lifting helps close. Another thing that helps close, it might be part of the problem with the lat muscles there, since they attach on the inner side of the shoulder, run along the ribs, they attach, their tendon comes in, joins to that fascia as well. So that can close the opposite side, and that joins with the glute max and even into the hamstring, attached into the hip. So we have this oblique sling, and then we have the same thing over there. So if they're both working well, then they both help close the joint, but sometimes one is tighter than the other and one's weaker, so we'll have one joint that's closed and then another one that is opened up too much. And usually it's the open one that you'll notice is harder. Like if this is opened up this way, this usually tends to turn that way. Or this is the cause, and it's so restricted that this has to generate more motion to make up for the lack of motion here. So if you're noticing turning right in or left in when we're doing that little trick, so we'll run through that really quick, is just, this will help our grip too. Let me turn this off. So think big and tall. Let's get that longitudinal sling working for us. Big inhale, we're inflating. Think a little wide too, that'll hit the lats. Make sure you have a little bend in your knees. Knees shouldn't be locked out. And then dorsiflex, 1 foot. And you should feel a lot of engagement. The knee's gonna wanna straighten out, don't let it. Big and tall, you're gonna pull that foot up really hard. It's like someone's got a band and they're holding your toes down. It should feel like that. So you should feel a lot of fascial tension right there. Let's take our thumb, so right foot's up, right hand back, put that thumb right there, hold that joint down, just like that. So I'm holding that in, knee bending, and I'm gonna turn at the hip joint, so you should feel this kind of, you might even feel that muscle stretch from here to here, just opening up. And let's repeat that on the other side. So we'll close this one down. I guess you can hold both if you want to.
It's lower than I thought it was.
Right there. And then turn in. So one way to find it is if you're doing your measuring sticks, you're feeling this guy, the ASIS. So if you just travel along your crest here, you'll come to a dimple and then a little bump. That's this guy.
Oh, that's your bump.
So PSIS, ASIS. Pinkies should be here, right? Decompressing, so you can just, okay, where is that? Oh, there it is. So all that fascia is gonna be inside that bump. So if this is pulling apart, it's stretching. So a lot of injury you have is here. So think about that fascia, it's supposed to guard all this, but if we're always bending from this area, especially if we got weight, or even without weight, just bending, right? Irritates. So foundation training is about all our typical movements. You really only need a few good movements to really train yourself. But this is like the starting point of our movements. Breathing and bending, right? If you're gonna do a squat, we kind of want to have these principles first. Because if we're just gonna start stretching, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna squat, and the first thing I do is stretch that thoracolumbar fascia, and I start my motion there, that's bad. That's gonna get irritated over time. So we want to keep this kind of locked down and protected when we're doing any heavy lifting. That making any sense there? Next, we have our oblique slings in the front. So the anterior ones, creating a big X. Again, they attach. So we have the transverse abdominis, comes out from the side here, attaches to that thoracolumbar fascia, goes around to the front, and our obliques, which all create a big little X right in the middle there. So our linea alba all comes in. So that's where we're kind of engaging the abs, even the psoas, really deep to that. It's all part of that. Going to help us close down.
So can you strengthen these long ones in the back that you're talking about?
Yeah, the obliques back here.
Yeah.
And some of us, like you are not lat dominant, but you are. So you have strong lats. So it pulls you here, and it turns your shoulders in. You're a bit of the opposite. So you're probably very weak lats.
Correct.
So you want to really engage those lats, pull them
Really
big
think
and
about-
broad. Tara and I, we're used to it. We already like,
Someone tells me to stand up straight. I'm like, all right.
yeah, we do this.
And you do that.
Like this is standing up straight to us. Just those muscles they're so used to it. And that actually makes our shoulders worse, so they turn in even more. It looks like they're turning out, but they're actually rotating in,
That's probably why mine
and the shoulder blades are coming back.
Okay, that makes sense.
So maybe good for you to even start up top, thinking about maybe a little bit of that, and then engage. For Tara and I, we want to think almost like what they teach deadlifters to do. A lot of deadlifters will kind of pull their hips back, and they'll think about their mid-back lengthening and then flexing a little bit. And it's kind of flexing more from here. So think flexion, we're like, oh, you're rounded, but it's only really rounded from like T1 to T5. Those are the ones that are kind of in flexion. Like if my head's forward, those are in flexion. But they're kind of from 6 down to 12, they're all in extension.
I think that the best is for me to start up here, like you said, make sure my neck is.
Yeah,
Like,
you get your
however
neck.
you did that.
Since that longitudinal one's a big one, it's a big player.
Okay.
Because there's 3 big muscles there. You have your iliocostalis, your longissimus, and then the multifidus, the spinalis, the one we always talk about. And they just go all the way up to the skull. So you remember, I love spines. Iliocostalis, longissimus, spinalis. That's how you remember. But since they go all the way up, they're very powerful. So when we're doing this, the posterior chain is pulling on those, and that pulls on this fascia, closes it down. So just from the head. So even if you just thought about the skull and lifting, I feel that change my whole body, change my whole
That helps me
posture.
a lot.
But let's go back to that deadlifting idea.
Okay.
So even, because our tendency is, oh, we're going to engage, and we kind of arch. So if I kind of just get a little tight here, and I'm flexing from here, and then I can either lengthen out of that, or I can kind of flex and lengthen at the same time, which is kind of the best of both worlds. Because they want, when they're lifting, they want to be kind of here, because that's protecting their spine. It feels like terrible posture to me. It's like, this is not good posture. I feel like, but I feel so much more tension. It's actually going to protect my joints and my discs. Where here, it looks like probably decent posture, but I've just further extended these, I've created further flexion here, and it's just compression. Compression causes depression.
Oh, yeah.
For your chiropractor.
Okay, Dr. Seuss.
And so thinking of those slings,
Okay.
maybe a good idea, of good visual, because we're engaging a lot of stuff to try to help. And nothing's perfectly isolated when we talk about this stuff. We want isolated motion, but there's a lot of different muscles working. Got a lot of stability muscles working. So if we have like a little sprain here, it's not always in the joint either. I will say like, well, that's an SI joint sprain, but it's probably just tears in this thoracolumbar fascia. So you got a tear in there that's telling you your hips aren't working right, you're not breathing right. That's the 2 things we need to work on. Breathing, then working on hinging, then we can start adding weight.
One day.
So let's first do some squats. We'll think about those ideas.
Okay.
Your favorite or
My red
squats?
band.
Do you need a red band?
Got it. Special band.
What's the band for?
It helps me so that I do the right thing.
Oh, yeah, it's
Remember?
this. What's the band for?
Like for me to do the right thing. We'll see. But are we gonna go out?
Yeah, so we'll go about shoulder width apart. And we don't have to internally rotate a lot. Let's just think more about, because the more we internally rotate, the more the SI joint wants to help out. So sometimes even a little pointed out is good. And anytime I dorsiflex, I kind of peel the foot down and grip. Down and grip. Just like the warm-up we were doing. Sometimes if you get back too far, that's when you lose the grip, because the weight starts going in the heels. And that's usually when the knees start coming back. So I want to think about the hips starting our squat, but then we're going to use our knees and the rest of our body. And pretend like you got some weight. So what we're going to do is get big and tall. We're going to take our thumbs, maybe start with just a slight hip hugger, just a little squeeze. Lengthen that thoracic spine, maybe curl it in a little bit, just so you can get some better engagement. Flip the hands around. Trace up right to our collarbones, and then pull the elbows in really tight, close to our body. So I got my thumbs right below my collarbones. I'm just gonna pretend like I'm holding the bar here.
Okay.
I'm first gonna do a little hinge. I'm squeezing, pulling down, and then we're gonna squat into it. And then push the knees out as you drive them. Let's do that again. Little hinge. Drop the butt, squat. Try to keep your eyes forward, don't look at the ground. And then power out of that. And just think about the feet gripping, sort of hinging, to squatting. And then push out. Good. Let's hinge. We're gonna take our left leg, we're gonna bring it behind us, kind of really long. What am I hitting? Kettlebell. Go long wing. Scoop forward. So we're doing woodpecker first. We're gonna get the hip to work. Pull your right hip behind you. And now I want you to push off the back foot. Let that knee travel forward a little bit. And then push out of the arch, come back up. So the trick is to have a nice arch. You're hinging, allows the arch to grip a little bit because you're taking the weight out of the foot. Not locking the knee out. And then as we come forward, we kind of keep resisting. Let that knee travel a little bit. You might feel it stick on your ankle, that's good. And push out of it. Hinge. Knee bend, hinge, knee bend. So it kind of goes from quad with the knee bent, then using the hamstring, getting that tension there.
Oh.
Let's go back to long wing. Slide up. Squeezing those elbows in just helps keep our spine honest. Step back into the hinge. Switch legs. Step back. Nice and long. Long wing again. Scoop up. Pull that hip behind us as we reach. Then let it bend. And get a lot farther with the left. Hinge back. So it's okay to let the knee go over the toe as long as we've incorporated the hip to work. So I'm almost hinging before I start, and then letting that come forward. Long wing. Thumbs into the collarbones, squeeze those elbows in tight, get your neck long. Step the right leg back, stay in the hinge. Push out of that. All right, shake it off. Oh. So even when we first start, sometimes we're like, step back, we already arch the back. Just a little strain on there because you're bending there at the spine. So setting ourselves up and we're hinging. Got the SI joints closed down, and then I'm stepping into that. A lot better way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm thinking about hinging. Even if I cut my hands here, just watch my hip. Pulling that hip back, feeling that hamstring. And then I'm letting the knee come forward. Hinging maybe a little bit more. Hinge a little more. And you can go super long with this if you want. You can get all the way down here, or you can raise your foot up on something. Hinging, letting that knee travel. So let's try some of this ideas with some weights. We got some kettlebells. Who wants the 35? You can split between this one.
Okay.
I will demo. So weight is our friend. It can help us squat better. So another position that looks really similar to this is holding a kettlebell right here. So I get my kettlebell up. Let's call it a goblet squat. Maybe I hinge just a little bit just to start the motion at the hips. Then I'm keeping my chest up. Sometimes the kettlebell wants to kind of drift out. Keep it close to your body. That'll keep your spine nice and long. And then I like to think of pressing out of here, going overhead. Squatting down slowly. Let's try some of those. So we'll come down, do a 1 1/4 squat. So we'll squat, come out a little bit, maybe go a little deeper than you were before, push through the ground. And if you think about throwing the weight overhead, that's when your legs are going to be forced to drive the weight up. A lot of times with kettlebells, like swings, a lot of people just kind of shoulder it.
Ew.
Instead of using your legs, we're using our legs to come up and down. All right. You got this, Heather. Who wants the big one?
Very intimidating.
Are you that strong?
She's got it.
I know my wrist on there.
I'm more so weak.
Sometimes when it's super light, you just cheat. When it's heavy, you're actually a little more guarded. You'll be a little more careful.
No, Steve.
Sometimes it's light. Get that close to your chest.
Oh.
Remember, we're zipped up here, right?
Or zipped.
Zipped up. Keep that in close contact. Make sure it's touching your sternum the whole time, because it's going to want to drift out. Don't let it. Let the hips come behind you, and they have to, which is good. A lot of us, if we do like this, like the sissy squat, where the heels come up and the hips aren't doing anything, and the pelvis is tucking, a little butt wink. This weight will help you because I got the weight here. If my weight's here, I'll go forward. So I kind of have to get the weight back. So that's why having some weight is good.
Oh, it's better to.
And if you can,
I feel like going out is better.
if you fail, if you're just like, okay, that's still good. You're still forcing because you're going to start down here and you think, I'm going to power up. I really have to drive up. Get that weight overhead.
This will help me get the weight in my butt.
Throw it overhead.
Oh.
Call that a squat thrust.
That'd be good practice. 15 pounds? I'll get one of these.
Yeah.
You can do this when you throw it to the ceiling.
That's right. You're so strong. Watch the feet. Keep them gripping the ground.
Yeah. Here, try the light one. Yeah, because should be easy for you. I'll do it after I get it right. Okay, so.
Nice small pasta or something. Let me check my notes.
Here's a baseball.
That's really heavy.
No, it's not.
You need to see them.
See your knees.
So
Forget-
I think that thing helps me remember to press.
Keep the knees out. All right, forget about the weights. Let's just decompress. Set the feet. Let's get a nice grip going on the feet. So a little knee bend, dorsiflex, peel that foot down, grab. And when we're squatting, it's okay at the bottom to let the knees pass the toes as long as your heel is down.
Okay.
The only reason we say don't let your knees pass your toes is because most people tend to do that.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe the better way to say is keep your heels down.
Right.
So actually, as we get deeper, we want that ankle mobility. Like if you're like me and they're terrible, something to really work on. So that's good.
Is that good?
Yeah. Just remember, we're here zipping.
Oops.
It's going to make it a lot harder.
That makes it a lot harder.
The reason for that is it just helps lengthen. We're tracing, right? And then we're locking in that length in that spine. So it's going to simulate having some weight. And those hands can't counterbalance. Because a lot of us want to kind of hinge. We're doing a little hinge, but then we're squatting. Maybe even stop. Push down. Squeeze those elbows in. Give me 10.
So
Let's see.
Is this supposed to make it transfer to the knees? No,
Shouldn't feel in the knees.
yeah, okay, then I can't go that far. Okay.
Sometimes you have too much ankle mobility. It's a thing.
That's probably what. Okay.
I can even see your knees started the motion. It's like you're here and your knees, just because you have great ankle mobility and I don't,
Because of my
because you're just a different posture type.
So I have to really think about
So maybe you should even arch a little bit. Pull the hips back. Make sure your feet are gripping. Make sure the hips, you should feel the pressure in your hips. Pressure out of the knees. So my center of gravity is here. That's why I don't want you reaching. As soon as you reach, shifts into the knees.
Yeah, that's bad.
Did you feel it with the weight in the
Better
knees?
with the weight.
You didn't feel it?
It helps, I think.
The
because
weight is your friend.
weight is. I have a couple of like 4-pounders that I can hold
Yeah.
at home.
It's a little weird, like, where I felt my butt.
Feels weird.
Yeah, like that's the spot that I like when I first came in. That was the hurting the most. Like here.
Okay.
That's where it feels the most. So I'm like, not.
That's-
I don't want. It almost makes me want to like, all right, I gotta sumo this thing to, you know, to make it feel slightly comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, because we definitely don't want it here. We should probably feel it more where those 3 bands come up here,
Yeah.
feeling the tension. So if it's here, we're probably, I don't know, maybe we're spreading the SI joints too much, or maybe there's a little bit of flexion going on.
Yeah.
So maybe just don't go as deep.
Okay.
And we'll switch to something else here. I just wanted to give
This
it
is
a
really good.
little time to practice.
This is in my core.
Feel that more? How'd you feel with the weight? Did you?
The weight was okay. It gave me something different to focus
Yeah.
on. I feel like, but I also didn't know what my knees were doing because if I can see my knees, I can tell.
All right, I'll watch your knees, and you think about the weight.
Yeah, try. That helped me a lot.
How are you holding it? Like this?
Yeah, like
I
that.
was just, I'm sure I wasn't holding it correctly.
That is the correct way.
Inhale.
Just squeeze those elbows in a little bit. Get the neck really tall. Take a few breaths, just think about it. And maybe just, let's go down slowly. I'll stop right here. Another breath. A little slower.
That's about as far as I can go without.
It's good. Hang out there. And then push through really hard and push your knees out really strong. Good. Now go to that depth again.
That's awesome.
And this time try to press overhead. Was it hurting the lower back?
No, not until I stand up and like relax. It's
Ah.
like, what did you do?
One thing with going overhead, and it might make it worse, but is we're here, we're coming down, a lot of us come up and we want to just kind of,
Yeah, I almost feel like when I get to this point, like my back starts wanting to like,
shove forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
and maybe that's.
So
that's
maybe
why I
just
like,
come up
looking
just a
down
little
so
bit.
much.
And then down. So you're kind of staying in that flexion. You could even try it this way, more of like a kind of a deadlift. So you got the weight here. And I'm just gonna think about, oh, let's see if I can put this down on the ground. And when I come up, I'm gonna stay kind of right here without, thrusting the hips forward. Keep them down and back. See if you can tap. Come on. And this one, I think I might even want you to have a little heavier weight.
Oh gosh. Here you have it.
Thank you.
You're fancy.
You can do it too.
Alright.
Think about your.
This will keep your squat more honest too.
I'm trying not to arch my back. That's what I do when I have weight.
You can round it, just round. Feel your belly, think about your diaphragm. Spreading wide, spreading back. Even a little forward's okay. One thing, I just don't want the diaphragm going here. But it is kind of, I am inflating a little bit in the front. So that's going to protect the spine here because it's got no ribs. It can protect this fascia.
This is a really good one.
All right, let me see that thing.
Yeah.
So we'll take it behind the head. We're going to open up. So I got the handle just resting right here below the occiput. Maybe go a little wider.
Be careful.
Let's change.
Yeah.
Let's go back there. I wasn't so
I got
bad.
it.
You're just seeing more of these.
Save my friend.
Yeah, this one's like.
Okay.
So I just like that right here, so I got something to press against. I used to do it back here because it kind of feels good, but I like it, the handle behind my skull. So as I hinge, my head has something to lift up against. Just keeps your neck a little honest. I'm squeezing my elbows away from each other. And then we can transition to that same exercise we did before, reaching long, maybe hinge a little bit, then let that knee come out and back. And then come back into the hinge. Step the right leg way back. Hinge. Forward. And back. Forward. And back. Forward. And back. The trick is not letting the pelvis kind of do that trick. And that's one thing where the weight will actually help you be a little honest.
You should try this one. I was holding it wrong first, so hold it like this.
Handles on the side, just like this.
So the mat goes in the back of the head.
Oh.
I was holding the top part of it.
Handle right underneath the skull, yeah. There. And go wide,
Oh, that does feel good.
then hinge.
Weird.
Hope me not look down.
Hinge, hinge, hinge.
Feel more weight.
And then once you got that good hamstring tension, you'll step back with the left.
Step in the right.
And you can go really long if you want to. And then we're just pushing forward that knee, pushing out. We're just in a constant hinge here. The thing with the trick with the knee is the knee wants to go, the pelvis wants to tuck with it. Keep that hip back.
Oh, right.
It's a really subtle movement, especially if you got limited ankle mobility like I do. But that weight's gonna push you a little farther.
That feels good. Okay.
You don't have to do a lot of reps either. You can just kind of get into position, breathe, slowly sink a little deeper.
Wow, I can get through it.
So we're taking our foundation training movements to the next level. We're adding some weight. The goal is to stabilize, and weight can even help us stabilize. As soon as we add that weight, those SI joints like, oh, we gotta close and protect.
Right.
And sometimes when we got really lightweight, we're doing a lot of yoga, that's when we actually injure this more than being heavy with our weight. So don't fear the 35-pounders or these kind of stuff.
Okay.
And you might not like this one, but I enjoy this one. And you could just it's called the cane squat. So you're just hinging down, you're gonna grab onto your toes. So
This one actually wasn't bad.
I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
push my toes into my fingers, stretch my hamstrings,
We're hinging.
and then you're gonna squat. Open up those hips, then hinge. And you can do that with the weight.
Do it without putting my heels up. Which one's doing that?
So if you got the kettlebell, I'm gonna hinge here, and then just do a little curl, and then hinge. It actually makes the movement easier for me. So it actually pushes me down into the squat a little bit more, so I get a little depth. First is here. If I'm holding there, and then squatting, that's actually, oh, I gotta really force myself down there.
Is your ankle?
hips, ankles, hamstrings.
So I just like want to keep going away.
Don't force it, but see if the weight helps you at all.
So, okay, how does that sound? You just put your toe.
Gonna hinge down. We're gonna hold the weight like this.
Oh, he flipped it.
And then,
Oh, can't do that with wrists.
where we get palms facing this way. And then curl it. There you go. And then you pull your hips back, push it down.
Without standing.
Yeah, I don't really quite set it down, just right there.
Oh,
Wow.
that is weird though, because I wasn't able to squat full-footed without the weight.
The weight helps.
It did help. Then I have to like or wrist. I'm just broken all over.
The weight is your friend.
It is.
Let's see what other notes we got here.
Makes it pretty easy.
How?
The squat part.
That's good. It felt good when I went side to side. My hip is sore.
Oh, okay.
Now, we don't have to do this one today, but one of my favorite ones. We'll end with this one. That's good too. You could do a little side to side action. Make sure it's close to your chest. That's why I want you to have some heavier weight, because if that's heavy, you're not going to be able to hold it out there.
This one's hard on my wrist.
Oh.
So, but if you had even like a 20, that would be better than
Yeah.
15.
Yeah. Okay. I'll wait till
Do
I
it.
do want to hold it out.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. Can I just?
I hinge down. So if I'm getting a kettlebell, I always kind of grab it right there.
Okay.
And so I have a little bit of reach.
Oh.
And then just set your hands. And I'm already in the hinge here, so when I'm ready to squat, maybe bring it in, get you close to your knees, and then I'll pull it, curl my muscles, my
Oh.
supporting there. So I got that weight right on my sternum.
Okay. I might be able to.
And then I pull back, slowly tap it. Head's pulling away, big, strong, curling.
Yeah, you're tight there.
Squat.
Wow.
That's good. Starting
That
to feel
is
more on
good.
my legs now, which is good.
So it looks like an arm exercise, but it's all the legs controlling the weight.
Yeah. I guess the whole hinging down. I don't know if I've ever done that.
Extra.
What the whole thing of foundation training is? It's all hinging.
Once you get it going and go with it.
I don't know. You gotta help me.
You got it. You're not standing with it. Put your elbows on your knees. There you go.